Well, August has been a slow month between both new releases and overall ideas to make for videos and to make content on, so fuck it, why not give my definitive ranking on all of the Batman movies to be released. By far my favorite comic book character of all time, and the one that has been blessed with an incredible track record of Oscar-level cinema. Of course, Batman has also had its share of poop when it comes to its cinematic history, but in this video I'll be ranking every single Batman movie that I've seen from worst to best. I'm going to include any film with the name Batman on it, as well as the Joker movie, because, you know, why not? I'm also going to include one animated movie, and no, it's not Mask of the Phantasm. So yeah, okay, let's get right into it. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Make sure to turn on notifications to see every single upload when I do them. And also leave your list down below. So this is clearly the worst film of the franchise. Joel Schumacher returned for his second Batman film, bringing in good old George Clooney for the first of 2 appearances he'd make as Batman, and I cannot believe that I just typed that. The film also brings in Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, who portrays this incredibly heartfelt and emotional character in a very, unique way, I guess?
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
The film isn't terrible, and it's honestly so goofy and silly that it's so incredibly entertaining to watch, but as a Batman film, it's obviously just a parody of the character more than an homage. And the base relationship between the characters of Batman and Robin itself just doesn't work here. The music's good, Poison Ivy's kinda hot in it, I guess. But yeah, it's Batman and Robin, like, come on. Batman Forever is bad for the exact same reason as Batman and Robin, but this one, at least for me, has always been a little bit more fun to watch. Maybe it's Jim Carrey's hilarious and over-the-top performance as the Riddler, or Tommy Lee Jones doing whatever this is as Two-Face.
Luck! Blind, stupid, simple, doodah, clueless luck!
Also, Val Kilmer brings a certain energy and charm to Bruce Wayne that I've always strangely kind of liked. This film is ridiculous from the opening scene on and tries to tell a thematically dark and emotional tale inside this goofy and cartoonish picture, and it just does not work. But it's still a film that I personally love to watch just for my guy Jim Carrey. I mean, he's so good in this. Also, this is really the last bad movie on this list. I feel like every movie ahead of this is at least a 3 out of 5, but these 2 movies definitely the worst Batman films. I just want to make this clear, this is the director's cut of the film. The theatrical cut is one of the worst films to come out in recent years. BVS, the director's cut, is great. It's a really solid yet overly long movie that does a really great job of introducing us to an older and more brutal Batman. Ben Affleck gives his best performance as the titled character and contrasts Henry Cavill's Superman in a fun way, which leads to the ultimate fight between the two at the end of the movie. The Doomsday stuff is silly, and the Wonder Woman is just kind of sort of thrown into the movie despite her amazing entrance. Also, Jesse Eisenberg is really sort of terrible here. I mean, I kind of like his performance, I just don't like his Lex Luthor take. Like, there's a lot of fun to be had in the way that he actually acts out this character, but it's just not Lex Luthor. But ultimately, this film definitely kicks like a little bit of ass. It's got that Zack Snyder charm. It does a lot right. It's just a little bit too long, and the ending is not great. The first hot take on this list, Matt Reeves' The Batman from 2022 falls to number 8 here. This is a great movie that I think just has some obvious flaws to it that I didn't like. First off, I've never fully connected with the idea of not displaying or developing a Bruce Wayne persona to contrast Batman. Now, I understand that they probably plan to do this in future movies, and they wanted to introduce us a Batman that hasn't done that yet, but to not even, tackle that idea at all is just something that I just kind of disagree with in the writing here. Because the whole reason Bruce Wayne has to create this playboy billionaire persona is because if he is just this kind of like emo, quiet guy, this guy that doesn't leave his house, it would become pretty obvious to the public that the vigilante that's wearing, high military grade armor and driving around in a very expensive car and doing all this crazy stuff is probably somebody that has a lot of money and probably that emo billionaire that lives in the city that nobody ever sees. And this film just kind of completely ignores that. It just shows us a Bruce Wayne who lacks any sort of charisma or personality and is instead a modern day Kurt Cobain impersonator. Obviously, Robert Pattinson is great as Batman. He brings a very good, very serious and dark Batman that I loved. I just hope in future projects they develop that Bruce Wayne persona. The film is also a little bit too long, and the third act kind of falls flat for me. Paul Dano's Riddler is great, I just wish there was more of him. Like, he's only in this movie for like 7 minutes. I also kind of wish they gave him more of a comic-accurate Riddler take rather than just make him Jigsaw. His character also kind of comes off as stupid at the end. Like, I really understand the moral and thematical choices that the Riddler is making until the final act, where throughout most of the movie he's targeting these corrupt politicians, these corrupt cops. But then at the end he just kind of wants to commit a mass shooting on all of Gotham. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Catwoman is great in this movie. I think her character's done really well. It's probably the best part of the whole thing. The cinematography is obviously amazing, should have won the Oscar, and overall it's a really solid movie that I just think drags on a little bit too long and doesn't depict Batman in the way that I usually look for in these films, the way that I would do it if I was writing it. And you know what? That's why we have opinions, because other people might say this is the perfect Batman movie, I think there's probably some better ones. The original Michael Keaton Batman film hasn't aged particularly well for me when it comes to the genre as a whole, but at the end of the day, it's still an epic origin story featuring arguably the two best comic book performances in history between Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. This film, directed by Tim Burton, is definitely different from the modern takes on the character and definitely isn't for everybody. Through and through, it is a Tim Burton movie. If you've seen any Tim Burton movie, you know what you're getting yourself into. But it's a ton of fun, it has a classic and amazing soundtrack, and a really ballsy plot that definitely takes some certain risks. It's really sad to see what Michael Keaton's version of the character became in the new Flash movie, and I do think this is the definitive version of this character, and it always will be. This is a phenomenal movie. The most overhated Batman movie to date, The Dark Knight Rises is the closing of the best superhero trilogy ever made, maybe the best movie trilogy ever. It's a fascinating take on the No Man's Land comic book story, setting a retired Batman up against the menacing and terrifying Bane, played brilliantly by Tom Hardy. The film, although the weakest in the Nolan trilogy, takes Batman as a character and completely deconstructs him, both as a legend, a symbol, and as the man that is Bruce Wayne. It also gives us our best story arc for Alfred that I've seen in any Batman movie, an amazing Hans Zimmer score, and an epic third act fitting of the franchise. The only gripe I truly have of this film is that Talia al Ghul just sort of being thrown into this film is just a disaster in my opinion. Her character does not work at all, and it honestly takes away from how good of a character that Bane is, and they should have just gone all the way with him. He's such a commanding force, and how they reinvented that character from his comic book counterpart is just amazing. Tom Hardy did so good, and I just wish they let him be the big bad for the entire time and didn't at the end just go, hey, look, Talia al Ghul. Yes, the Lego Batman movie is on my list. Why?
Because fuck them, that's why.
Now shut up and hear me out. I don't know if I had ever laughed as hard as I did at the first 20 minutes of this film. Maybe it's because I was in the middle of my teenage years and my sense of humor hadn't evolved yet, or maybe it was because the superhero genre had kind of run its course for me at the time and it was so ridiculous, and it was fun to see a movie that sort of just ripped it apart, while also telling a somewhat fateful Batman story. Listen, the opening of this film is perfect, and the third act definitely falls apart a tiny bit, but the writing here is brilliant. Will Arnett is hilarious voicing Batman, and the relationship between Batman and the Joker is a perfect metaphor for their overall relationship through all of time. I love this movie, and you should too, because come on, how can you hate the Lego Batman movie? Tim Burton's sequel to the original Michael Keaton Batman movie goes darker and bolder, introducing us to Danny DeVito's dark and mystifying take on the Penguin, as well as getting my favorite take on the Catwoman character played by Michelle Pfeiffer. This film captures the essence of what Tim Burton's superhero movies should feel like, and it captures that dark noir tone of Gotham City he had intended, while also giving us a strong version of Batman and a charismatic Bruce Wayne. DeVito is the star of this movie, with his Penguin stealing every scene he's in, and although the comic accuracy to the character might not be exactly there, who gives a hoot?
I don't give a hoot.
This film was a classic and definitely the best of the pre-2000 Batman movies, maybe the best pre-2000 superhero movie as a whole. If you know me personally, you know I love the Joker. And not just the film. The character is my favorite villain in storytelling history, not just because of his bombastic personality that has been interpreted so many different ways in so many different mediums, but also in the way that he thematically contrasts and also relates to his moral opposite in the Batman. To me, he was what makes Batman an interesting character, and vice versa. So when Todd Phillips announced that he was making a Joker movie starring the best actor alive, Joaquin Phoenix, in the title role, I was a little bit excited. And the film didn't disappoint. I saw this thing 4 or 5 times in the theaters, and I've seen it like 100 times since, and it just never gets old. Is the film an almost exact copy of The King of Comedy, as well as shares thematical connections and tones with movies like Taxi Driver? I mean, yeah, I never said it was super original, but the film, although not very original, treats the character of the Joker with respect, while also sharing a new and unique interpretation of the character, giving us a soft origin story of his pre-Batman days. Phoenix is brilliant here, and the characterization of the Crown Prince of Crime is just perfect. Seeing him transform from the awkward and socially strange rent-a-clown to the unhinged, culturally chaotic future kingpin of Gotham. The film also upholds the values of ambiguity with this character when covering his origin, leaving enough room for the audience to question whether we're watching is 100% true or just a figment of the Joker's imagination. This all leads to a perfect ending, countered with a magnificent score, and god fucking damn it, I cannot wait for the totally, kind of unnecessary sequel next year. I think Batman Begins is the best comic book origin of all time. Live action, at least, because, you know, that other movie exists. This movie is fantastic and extremely underrated. I just got done reading the screenplay for this, and it's actually amazing to me just how fast-paced the Nolan brothers write their scenes, but that's a video for another day. This film introduces us to a Gotham that is essentially controlled by crime, and a Bruce Wayne who's hell-bent on standing up to it. We see his journey of creating the Batman, this symbol of hope for the people of Gotham and fear for the criminals. Ra's al Ghul is an underrated movie villain, and he is just such a great character. A man with similar ambitions to Batman, but a more sinister way of acting upon those ambitions. Cillian Murphy's amazing as Scarecrow. I just wish there was more of him here. The overall plans of the villains and how they contrast Batman is so good. Batman's you know, the way he becomes Batman, the whole origin behind the character works so well. Christian Bale is perfect, both as the Dark Knight and as the charismatic billionaire playboy. I mean, the scenes here are hilarious. The one where he goes swimming in like the fucking restaurant after buying it or whatever. It's just amazing. It's got the best romance in any of his movies. His connection with Rachel is really, really well done. The early parts of the movies are great. It contrasts everything that came before it in the Tim Burton and the Joel Schumacher Batmans perfectly. Like, it creates its own identity. It is a Christopher Nolan movie, and if you've seen any Christopher Nolan movie, you're gonna feel his effect on this. It is the classic Christopher Nolan movie. And to me, it's probably the best Batman movie we've gotten to date. It is a perfect Batman film. But of course, there's one film better than it, and you all know what it is. You knew what it was before you even clicked the video. The Dark Knight is one of the greatest films of all time. Case closed, the end. I mean, come on. Heath Ledger's performance as the chaotic anarchist Joker is the best performance maybe in acting history, and I still find something new in it every time I rewatch this film. The opening 20 minutes are spotless, followed by an entertaining crime drama that never takes its foot off the gas pedal. What I love about this movie is the fact that it's not just like a Gotham versus Joker movie or a Batman versus Joker movie. The Joker, although the major antagonist, is more in like a spiritual war with Batman throughout. The war for Gotham's soul. Both parties looking to prove which side of the coin Gotham will fall to. Evil or one of hope. This is represented brilliantly through the character of Harvey Dent, who becomes Two-Face, a literal and physical representation of the two sides of that moral coin that make up the Joker and Batman, as well as Gotham. Everything about this film is perfect from beginning to end, from the score to the cinematography, from the interrogation scene to the ending. There's nothing I would change here. It is just an absolutely spotless movie. It's not only the perfect Batman movie, it's quite possibly the greatest film ever created. There is just, I cannot say enough about how good The Dark Knight is. But yeah, that's my list. What do you guys think? You disagree? I mean, probably. Let me know your list down below, and also make sure to like this video and subscribe and turn on notifications and all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next video.